I think about the sun dying and ending all life in this little pocket of the universe more often than you might imagine, given that it's 5 or 6 billion years away still. I don't know, maybe I'm not the only one. If I were placing a bet, I'd put the odds on something else eradicating our species well before then. 80-20 of our own making. But it's not the odds to dwell on today. That was last week. We're talking about the loss. It's coming, all of it, eventually, but more imminently, your life and mine. So we're going to have to learn how to lose over and over again. And if there were ever a game to practice losing, it is baseball. The game where the very best players get out 2/3 of the time when they go up to bat. The game whose beloved Cubs lost for so long, players remembered coming out on opening day once to see their fans holding a sign that says, "Wait till next year." The game, which I understand has been a roller coaster for the Giants across the bay this year, now dropping 8 of their last 10 games. But really, who cares, since the A's, whose crappy stadium held all of my favorite childhood baseball memories, have left the town for good. I feel like I've lost the game altogether. Except for sports movies. We're at the age with Henry now where we can watch sports movies. We're enjoying them mightily, and we haven't seen yet, but we will soon, my very favorite childhood baseball game, Little Big League. You know Little Big League? The movie opens with a tremendous loss. Billy, he's 12 years old, and he has a very close relationship with his grandfather. The movie begins with his grandfather dying and sharing a last message by video after he's gone. A tender message to his grandson he calls his best friend. A message in which he gives him his favorite thing, the Minnesota Twins. And so now 12-year-old Billy, owner of the Minnesota Twins, decides to appoint himself manager of the Minnesota Twins, and shenanigans ensue. They're not doing well. They're losing game after game, and after one loss, we see the rancor that takes over the team. They lose like Imogene would lose. Bitter, blaming. They are disgusted with Billy. They're mad at each other. And you know these moments of loss. These moments in your own life, these moments that happen in political losses or when a project goes bad at work, these moments that tear a team apart. When all we can seek is who's to blame, what vengeance can we take, or ignore it. There's, I think, one team member who just kind of shrugs it off. It's not going to affect my paycheck. The temptation for a spiritual bypass, for living in denial. All of the ways to interpret loss that leaves one the victim of the loss. A few games later, Billy's had enough. And in this inversion where the adults are acting like children, the child steps up to adulthood. Billy says, "You all have forgotten this game is about having fun. You get to play baseball for a living. the playful spark that Billy brings allows for a whole new relationship to loss. They don't immediately start winning, but they do start playing together. They start asking questions. They start having fun. They have a loss later in the movie where instead of turning on one another, they clap each other on the back. They joke playfully about it. They learn to make out of their loss an invitation. I think this is the spiritual task asked of all of us. How do you move from those younger parts that always want to understand a loss as a way of being a victim to loss as an invitation to one's own deepening agency? I remember on a family trip growing up, we were coming home from Yosemite and we stopped for gas and a bite to eat, and we must have left the car for a moment. My suitcase was strapped to the top of the car, and when we returned, it was gone. And I only remember this moment because my collectible trading cards, my Magic the Gathering cards, were in that suitcase. Yes, exactly. Thank you. I remember it because it was a moment where life, the universe, tugged at that feeling that lives at the core of life's always urgent need to exist. A feeling that this universe, with its unending insistence on transformation, brings us into intimate connection with, again and again, the invitation of loss. I remember a shock to my system when I was getting divorced, when I suddenly was only spending half the time with my son. And this feeling of being bereft of the part of his life I was missing out on. All of the experiences, the benign, normal moments, the doing homework at night, the television shows he was interested in, the things that I would no longer get to experience, spending only half his days with him. And I realized that it was a rapid quickening of an inevitable process of loss, a process that every parent, in fact, if they're lucky, gets to experience, losing their child to their own life. This important, inevitable, natural process of separation. So it's tempting. I remember it was tempting then. It's tempting probably with every loss I've experienced to ask, how am I the victim here? Who is to blame? The younger parts of us always interpreting loss this way. What did I do wrong? Maybe it was something I did wrong to deserve this, or who wronged me? But a mature spirituality asks instead, what is this invitation that this loss offers? What now, God? What now, life? What now, universe? It is not easy, right? And I think because it's one of our greatest challenges is why that story of Job has stuck around so long. You know that 3,000-year-old story. Blameless, upright, generous. This is how we are introduced to Job. He did everything right. I mean, honestly, he sounds like he was kind of obnoxious. He would sacrifice preemptively so that if his children should make mistakes, he would have already covered the debts of their mistakes with his sacrifice. so upright, so righteous. Then out of the blue, things start going bad. Raiders come. They take his oxen and his donkeys. They kill the servants, the people who are tending to the animals. Then it's the sheep burning in a fire. The camels are stolen. Finally, his children are killed. Job rends his garments in grief and shaves his head, falls to the ground, and yet still, the story says, whispers what might feel like an impossible phrase. Naked I came, naked I go. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken, blessed be the name. What does it take to cultivate that kind of relationship to loss? I think it's what Elizabeth Bishop points to in that famous poem, you might know it, One Art. She was someone deeply familiar with loss. Her father died when she was 8 months old. Her mother was committed to an asylum when she was 5 years old. A long-term partner, 17 years, she lost to suicide. All of this familiarity led her to writing this poem during a separation of loss from her partner of many years, her last partner, Alice. She said, "The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost, that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, accept the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places, names, and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last of my 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster, some realms I own, 2 rivers, a continent. I miss them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied, it's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster." The truth she arrives at, the truth of all of our lives, is that no matter how practiced we become, there is nothing to do in the face of loss but grieve the disaster. Even with his faithful whisper in the face of all that devastation, loss is not finished in Job's story. His body breaks down. Sores and scabs we're told about from head to toe. His friends come, offer that voice. Surely there must be something you have done. You must have sinned to deserve this. And then Job himself breaks open. He curses the day of his birth. He demands answers. He raises his voice to the heavens. He cries out, "Why was I born only to suffer? Why should the innocent taste such bitterness?" And the midrash about this moment, the rabbinical texts of conversation back and forth over the centuries, suggests that in that moment the angels trembled. They cried out, "Silence him, God. He blasphemes. His words pierce the heavens." But they say, God replied, "No, let him speak. His words are dearer to me than your endless chorus of holy, holy, holy. You sing because you must. He cries out because he has no reason left but truth. And that truth is more precious to me than all your hymns. This crying out, this moment of faithfulness to something in the face of incomprehensible loss. The Hebrew word for faith, Marcus Borg explains, is imunah, which he says when you pronounce it imunah, you can almost hear the braying of a donkey, of a baby donkey. Imunah, this braying, this pleading, this desperate call, full of the vulnerability of the newborn, but also full of a confidence that it will be answered. Imunah. I don't know what this invitation, this loss could possibly be making of my life, oh God, but I feel it in my bones, and all I can do now is cry out. And then God responds with a whirlwind. Doesn't give explanations, doesn't answer the why, instead says, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know, have you entered the storehouses of snow? Do you command the morning or send the lightning on its way?" And what I hear is not cruelty, but invitation. What I hear is that the universe is vast and wild, and you are part of it. Your loss is real, but it's not everything. Your suffering is terrible, but it's not the only truth. See the mystery that pulses through creation. Hear my wild invitation. So, in this moment, with the losses you hold, what's the invitation? In your own personal losses, where are you being invited? In this moment of great political loss, what is the invitation? At the end of Little Big League, they're in a game with the Mariners to try and make a spot in the playoffs. And it's one of those sports movies, so, it's full of drama. Every play feels full of possibility, and you kind of know the ending already, but still you're gripped. Are they going to do it? And it seems with all of their good humor, all of their playing together, all of their fierce dedication that's been cultivated through the whole film, they're going to finally make it. The game crackles with life. They're going to pull this miracle of a season off until Ken Griffey Jr. sticks his glove high in the air, jumps inhumanly high, and catches a ball right out of home run territory. The crowd gasps. The dream is snatched away. The season ends with not triumph, but loss. The heartbreak is clear, but so is the love. This loss is not a loss of mutual destruction, not a loss of victims, but a loss of a people who can hold one another, grieve together, and find through a mutual discernment, through an ever open heart to the next invitation, what they might do next. Loss is inevitable. What we do with its invitation is up to us. May it be so. and amen.